Right, and welcome back to Inclusive Design 24 2025, brought to you in partnership with our Platinum supporters, Accessibility Cloud and Intopia. You can follow us on Mastodon and Blue Sky, and if you have any questions for the presenters, post them there using the ID24 hashtag, or maybe easier, if you're already watching here on YouTube, you can put your questions in the live chat. We'll gather your questions for our Q&A at the end of the session. Now, a reminder that ID24 is a respectful community, and you can find our code of conduct on the Inclusive Design 24 website. Now, again, I'm thrilled to be joined by my colleague and guest host, Joe Lamiman. Joe, over to you.
Thanks, Patrick. So next we've got Sam Kuo and Joe Chang talking about digital accessibility in Taiwan, focusing specifically on how a community drives change. Really looking forward to learning more about this. Over to you both.
So hi everyone, we are Sam and Joe from Coseeing, a community based in Taiwan. Today we would like to share our journeys, how we've been working together to advocate for digital accessibility and drive real change in Taiwan. First, you may be wondering, who is Coseeing? We are a community of people working in tech who came together to advocate for digital accessibility in Taiwan. Our mission is to connect people who are passionate about accessibility, make it part of our culture, not just a checkbox, and empower everyone to access the digital world equally, so no one is left behind. I'm Joe. I joined Coseeing about 2 years ago as a designer, and I also write about accessibility topics.
Hi, I'm Sam, a product designer who's been working in Japan, and I joined Coseeing 3 years ago. Together, we are here to share the story of our ongoing journey and how Coseeing is driving change for digital accessibility from the ground up in Taiwan. So, what comes to your mind when thinking about Taiwan's tech scene? Let me paint you a picture with some interesting numbers. First, Taiwan hosts nearly 20% of the global semiconductor market, which means if you own 5 electronic devices, chances are one of them runs on a chip made here. Second, with 95% internet penetration, almost everyone in Taiwan is online, and you'll never be far from a Wi-Fi signal. And here's my favorite fun fact. When Taiwanese people stream a movie, it's at an average speed fast enough to download a full HD film in just 4 minutes, making Taiwan the fastest country in the world for broadband speed among nations with over 1 million people. So, yes, your impression might be spot on. We really are living in a digitally advanced world here in Taiwan. But what about digital accessibility? Accessibility certification in Taiwan is similar to how we CAC, with 3 levels of conformance. Level A, AA, and AAA. But unlike the United States with its ADA or the EU with its EAA, both require compliance, Taiwan relies on voluntary certifications except for public sectors. If you visit a Taiwanese government website, chances are you'll find decent accessibility features. But if we step outside these regulated spaces, that's where things get complicated. Only a handful of major players, some big banks or tech giants, are stepping up to create a more accessible digital experiences. But still, there are some major issues. For example, some financial services create a separate accessible version, which in Taiwan we often call it friendly version of the app. The advantage of this approach is that it has minimal impact on existing products and makes it relatively easier to obtain government accessibility certifications. However, the downside is that due to low usage, teams may stop maintaining it after getting the accessibility certification. This leads to incomplete functionality and problems in the friendly version, making it merely accessible on the surface while actually depriving users with disabilities of their right to use the fully functional service. Our founder, Udi, as a visually impaired person, decided to change this. He started as one coder, building tools that help other visually impaired people. As the tool helped more people, he went on working on more accessibility-related projects. That's when people like Joe and I jumped aboard. We truly believe that everyone who relies on assistive technology deserves the same seamless experience we all take for granted. Shopping online, reading the news, transferring money, living digital lives without barriers. But we can't just build accessible products in isolation. Real change happens when we reach the people who are actually creating these digital experiences every day. Specifically, the developers, designers, and product managers scattered across Taiwan's tech companies. That's why we launched A11y Village, published original accessibility articles, and other activities like in-person workshops, which we will get into more details later. Fast forward 3 years, and the numbers tell an incredible story. When we started A11y Village, we were talking to an empty room. 0 view, 0 article, 0 community. Today, we've reached a steady 2.3K views every single month. But here's what really matters. We've gone from 0 accessibility resource to 147 comprehensive and original articles that people across Taiwan actually reference, with over 52K total views. We've created something that didn't exist before, a thriving Taiwanese accessibility community that's empowering IT professionals to build inclusive digital experiences. So, how do we drive change through community with a bottom-up approach? We have concluded into 4 important actions. Inspire, connect, motivate, and empower. Let's dive into each one of them. Inspire. Inspire people to care about accessibility. Picture trying to convince a busy developer in Taiwan to care about accessibility, but all the resources, guides, and best practices you can share are written in English or other languages. Even the most well-intentioned IT professionals feel like this whole topic was happening in a different world, speaking a different language, solving different problems. That's what one of our readers, Vic, who later became our volunteer, was going through at that time. As a front-end engineer, he needed to build up some essential accessibility knowledge, but he couldn't find any comprehensive resources online. The language barrier was keeping crucial knowledge from the people who needed it the most, like Vic. So we asked ourselves, what if we could make accessibility knowledge truly accessible in Taiwan? We started really simple, like explaining the most basic concepts, such as what is accessibility and what is screen reader. For Vic, the most insightful part was the one directly connected to his work. For example, Tab Index is a simple but powerful tool that allows keyboard users to move through a website more efficiently. But until then, he had barely even heard of tab index, much less use it. Our approach here is to bring in as much multimedia as we can. We leverage illustrations and diagrams to make the ideas feel alive. And beyond that, we create simple interactive code examples so engineers can peek into the source code, see what's happening in the background, and really understand the concept in a hands-on way. Vic also discovered that it wasn't just the technical tips for the engineers that mattered. In one of our articles, we explained how a simple icon can make error messages in web form clearer, because red color alone isn't accessible to everyone. He brought these insights back to his team, discussed it with their designer, and together they make their form more accessible than before. But even that wasn't the full picture. We noticed something important. People weren't truly engaged until they understood the why behind accessibility. And the why isn't found in guidelines or compliance requirements. It's found in the people behind the screens. We started interviewing people with disabilities, listening to their stories about interacting with digital products and real world. What we discovered was both eye-opening and humbling. People want to connect with friends or navigate the city with map, just like anyone else, but facing unnecessary barriers every single day. We collected all the stories in detail, and the IT community response to this series was incredible. Readers told us these interviews finally helped them understand that accessibility isn't just about checking compliance boxes. It's about making real people's life easier. We expanded this approach, interviewing accessibility advocates and diving deep into what drives them. In this picture, we were interviewing a Japanese volunteer team working on audio description. What deeply touched me was that most of the members have been volunteering for over a decade, learning all the editing skills from scratch, just to provide a more accessible movie experience for everyone. These conversations resonated particularly with people searching for purpose in their work, those looking for something bigger than themselves. We also spoke with our volunteer members about how they bring accessibility into their work. Vic told us one article that impacted him the most is the one of these interviews featured a financial product designer's approach to accessibility. He had always found the app user-friendly as a user, but once he learned how carefully accessibility had been built in behind the scenes, accessibility suddenly became more real and personal to him. Here's a wrap-up on what we learned in these 3 years. Inspiration comes through understanding. By making accessibility knowledge digestible and connecting it to real human stories, we created a framework that answers 3 essential questions: what, how, and why. What are the basics? We made the fundamental concepts in accessibility simple and relatable with multimedia contents. How can we do it? We guide readers through practical, step-by-step education that shows rather than just tells. And most importantly, why do we need to care? Because they are real people struggling with barriers we can actually remove. The second piece is connect. Connect like-minded people through volunteering and partnership. This organization started with one person, but grew bigger and stronger because more people resonated with this concept and joined as volunteers, spending their own precious time and effort to spread the concept. Please meet one of our lovely members, Stacy. 3 years ago, she was on a journey to find a way to create real social impact through her work as a product designer. She had always cared deeply about social issues and dreamed of using her professional skills for something more meaningful than just earning a paycheck. That's when she came across Coseeing. She realized that even if she couldn't join a social enterprise full-time, she could still make a difference through a side project. At that time, Stacy had only a basic understanding of accessibility, but she had never thought about it as a doorway into creating social impact through her skill. Joining Coseeing brought 3 important changes for her. First, connecting with people from different organizations. Members from different companies share their practical experiences. In this example, other designers shared how accessibility is handled in their own workplaces. So it's not just about learning within your own team anymore. It's real cross-organization knowledge exchange. Second, learning by doing. Through side projects, she could ask questions directly to members who already had deep expertise in accessibility. At the beginning, she knew almost nothing. But through this back and forth, step-by-step process, she started to understand more. And third, going deeper into what design really means for user. In everyday work, many details are often sacrificed for business goals. But here, people are willing to slow down and really explore different scenarios. For example, how will a screen reader user interact with different dialogue patterns? No one would push back with, "Why are we even talking about this?" Instead, there are genuine space to reflect on how even the smallest design choices can make a real difference in people's life. Stacy isn't walking this road alone. Our volunteers live all over the world, across 5 time zones and 8 countries, but share one same goal: make the digital world easier for everyone in Taiwan. Here's what our member told us. What impressed me the most was gaining a deeper and more systematic understanding of accessibility knowledge and being able to actively incorporate these considerations into my daily work. Another member also mentioned that even though it's fully remote, everyone is highly engaged and always generously shares their knowledge. Their voices prove that our mix of skills and background is the secret sauce that keeps this community open, creative, and strong. This started as an engineer's project. Then designers joined, social media pros jumped in. Each person thinks proactively on how they can contribute to this community. The community, in turn, became a playground for fresh ideas.
So with all these like-minded people around us who really care about accessibility, the next step is to get them involved. And the way to do that is 2-part. First, we invite people to really put themselves in the shoes of someone with a disability. Second, we help bridging the gap so they can actually get hands-on experience and see how accessibility works in the real world. Like this year, we introduced A11y Camp. It's a workshop designed to help people quickly pick up the basic of digital accessibility. More importantly, they can get some real hands-on experience. So we started with fundamental, the 4 main types of disabilities: visual, auditory, motors, and cognitive. and we explained how each group has different needs in a digital environment. Then we introduced WCAG, the International Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and explained how these principles make the digital world more inclusive. We also show some common assistive technology like screen readers, voice control, with guidelines to using voiceover on iOS and talkback on Android. And we asked them to try some simple tasks like checking the weather or reading a table. At first, most people struggled. They didn't know how to control with swipe or tap gesture. They missed things, but gradually, they figured it out. By the end, they were doing it with more confidence, and you could see the real sense of achievement on their faces. But the real highlight of this workshop is the interactive games to help people build empathy. Like one of them, Flip and Find. It's a game that helps people experience how blind or visually impaired people navigate information online using a screen reader. And it's created by two of our members, Renju and Shirley. They both are designers who creating and leading the interactive game section. And here is how it works. First, participants will see multiple lines of cup in front of them. And we ask them questions, and the answers are hidden under the cups. So participants cannot see the information directly. Instead, they have to flip the cup one by one in the exactly order to find the answer. So in the first round, participants can only flip a cup in the order on the numbers on land, and the questions are all fruit related, either about the history, like where does it come from, or its seasons. So for example, we might ask, where was the purple grape first planted? So to find the answer, participants have to flip a cup one by one in order. So as you can imagine, if the answer is under one of the last few cups, they could spend a lot of time looking for it. For the second round, we ask similar question, but this time, you can see the cups are tagged with color. And the color gives a hint about the fruit. And also there's one more tip to help participants find the answer. A label is pasted on the inner side of the cup, telling whether the answer is about history or season. So if the question said again, where was the purple grape first planted? They will know to look for a cup with purple text, and the label inside should point it to the history. So with these two tips, participants can find the answer much more quickly and easily compared to the first round. You might be wondering, how is this relevant to accessibility? So as you know, screen reader user relies on headings and labels to navigate content on the web, just like this Wikipedia page. So this demonstrates how properly organized heading and label make it much easier for them to find what they need. So if you remember in the first round, participants have to flip the cup one by one to find the answer. It's like when a website has no heading, screen reader user lose their table of content, they have to read or tap through everything line by line, just like this text. So people feel like confusing and very slow and also frustrating. In the second round, introduce color tag and label. So it's like having a clear headings. So this well-organized structure makes the text much easier to follow and also helps screen reader user find information more easily. So this whole exercise let participants experience what it is like to search for information without any structures and really highlight why clear labeling is so important for screen reader users. After the section, we received some feedback from the participants, like this one, very surprised by the exercise and said, wow, I didn't realize it's so hard to understand information without using visions. We also heard other great feedback about the workshop overall. So an engineer said, I've been working for so long, but I never really had any concept of accessibility. Today's section gave me a lot of valuable insights. So unlike many others training out there, this workshop is all about experience. It makes accessibility something anyone can connect with, not just a theory, but the real human challenges. So our hope is that through this, people not only see the importance of accessibility design, but also feel motivated to apply it in their work, and maybe even become advocates for accessibility in their own organizations. Next is about empowering people to take the lead. So at Coseeing, we give our members the space and support to step up and build tools that make sure everyone can access knowledge no matter their disability. One example is A8M. We built this tool to help the blind and visually impaired students learn math. So everyone might know NVDA is a free open source screen reader for Windows that's very popular and it supports many languages and applications. However, it has limitations in reading math equations, including those written in MathML, which is a way to represent math and display equation and formula on the web. So when a screen reader encounters MathML, the reading can be ambiguous, sometimes confusing. So for example, fraction or exponents can be read in a way that make it hard to tell what the equation really looks like. So imagine hearing b divided by the square root of a plus c. Depending how you interpret it, it could mean 5 different equations, which can be really confusing for visually impaired or blind students. And why does this matter? Yeah, this lack of clarity makes it hard for blind or visually impaired students to keep up in math classes. Without a clear way to understand the structure of equation, lesson can end up feeling confusing and frustrating. And this also aligns with research from 2021. Many students with blindness leave post-secondary STEM programs, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, often because of accessibility barrier in math. So a group of our members stepped in and created A8M. It's a tool designed to help students with visual impairments overcome barriers in learning math. So it's an NVDA add-on that makes math easier to read and explore. It first bridges the gap between blind students and sighted teachers when learning math. It also makes writing mathematics easier for blind students. And it helps them understand the structures and relationship between numbers and symbols. So it offers 2 main features. The first one, in reading mode, it improves pacing and makes equation sounds more logical. In interaction mode, it lets students navigate equation part by part using their keyboard, so they can zoom in on complex sections and hear clear audio feedback along the way. So let's give you a simple example to help you better understand how it works for a screen reader user. So imagine you have these contents that mix text and equations. So with NVDA and A8M installed on your computer, so when you enter a screen reader mode, the screen readers will guide a user through it like this. Multiply the fractions 1/2 times 3/4. Then the screen reader announces that there's an interactive item. So the user press space or enters to start interacting with it. Now, in the interaction mode, the screen reader reads the equation 1/2 times 3/4. So to explore deeper level of the equation, the user press the down arrow key. Now, it then will announce the item at this level. Item 1, 1/2. Item 2, times. Item 3, 3/4. Then the user can navigate between these items using the left arrow key, or use the right key to go backward. So if the user want to explore the structure, let's say the first fraction, so they navigate to 1/2 and press the down arrow key. Then the screen reader will announce item 1, numerator 1, and item 2, denominator 2. And again, they can move between these items using the left arrow key and the right arrow key. So when they are done, the user can hit Ask to exit interaction mode. While this process might seem tedious for someone who can really see the equation, it helps blind and visually impaired users to understand the structures of complex equations and reduce confusion. So next time, when students need to solve something like this, very long, complicated equations with SS8 math, they can navigate it much more easily and clearly than before. And SS8 Math is not just for students. We also built a web editor tool for teachers. So with this tool, they can convert tricky math tasks into accessible formats that NVDA screen reader can read it clearly. So teacher can also transfer students' homework into the format that are easier for them to understand. So this means teachers no longer need to learn or decode complicated math notation themselves. They can focus on what really matters, teaching. And here's one of the sections when we provide training to the student and the teacher, showing how they can use SS8 math tool to learn math. And we got feedback from one of the teachers, Mr. Lee, who has been actively promoting SS8 math. He mentioned that these tools has helped students with visual impairment learn math more easily. He especially appreciated the Braille conversion features, which translates students' homework into a format that teachers can really understand. So this bridges the gap between teachers and students and helps students to discover the joy of math while building their understanding and confidence. SS8 Math now is being used beyond Taiwan. We know that some higher education institutions in the US and Brazil have started using it. It's empowering students, breaking down accessibility barriers, and helping make math education more inclusive. We also received many great feedback from students, like this one, from a physics student in Taiwan who became visually impaired in high school. He said, thanks to SS8 Math, he has been able to continue studying math and science. So this whole initiative was kicked off by a community. It's not just a small add-on for NVDA screen readers, it's making an impact. So that's how we've been driving change in Taiwan, by inspiring, connecting, motivating, and empowering. And now, looking back, we started small and we've been gradually growing. I want to say we have achieved everything because there's always more to do. But I do believe we made some great progress, and I would like to share some of them. So like Sam mentioned at the beginning, first, A11y Village, our publication that shares accessibility knowledge and tutorials. We have published more than 100 articles online, reached more than 600 followers, and grown our monthly view to more than 2,000. It's a huge increase compared to just 75 in our first month. And in total, our articles have been viewed more than 50,000 times. And apart from SS8 Math, we also develop other products to help people with disability access content and communicate more easily online. All of these tools are free, and they are already being widely used. So we have achieved a total 2,200 downloads across all our products. As for community, we now have 75 key members across multiple countries who are actively leading digital accessibility initiatives. Finally, this year, our community became a legal entity in Taiwan. This means we now exist independently of any individual members, making us more sustainable for long terms. It also gives us more credibility, helping us open doors with partners and the public. So for example, something we did last month is triggered by this event. It's a very popular messaging app in Taiwan. It announced it would shut down its Chrome version, which was the only way visually impaired users could access it on a computer. So under public pressures, the company postponed the shutdown until 2026 and promised to begin improving accessibility on its other platforms, for example, desktop app. So because of this incident, people began paying more attention to this issue and discuss how the Accessibility Act in Taiwan has been undermined and left without proper review or revision for years. So as a legal entity, we decided to take the lead by actively sharing information and encouraging people to step up and speak out. We have sparked some great conversation and even attracted media attention. Hopefully, this bottom-up approach can drive real change in legislation. So that's what we have achieved so far. And there's more to come. So looking ahead, what's next for us? First, we want to keep providing structures and interactive learning. So we aim to onboard people with interactive, well-organized resources that help them really get familiar with accessibility in practice, not just theory. So something like we did in A11y camp. So this means more hands-on opportunities so people feel confident applying accessibility in their work. Second, growing more accessibility advocates. We think the more people learn, the more they naturally share what they know. So our goal is to cultivate ambassadors who actively share accessibility knowledge inside their teams, in their community, and even across the wider tech and design world. And last but not least, from learning to leading. We want to create a virtuous cycle of learning and sharing. So this means supporting members as they grow through mentorship and helping them transition into leadership roles, whether it's teaching others, leading initiatives, building accessible products, or running events. Because what we are doing is not just teaching accessibility. We're building a community that learns, grows, and leads together. So if you are thinking about making a change for accessibility, but not so sure where to start, let's start by inspiring people to care and talk about accessibility. Next, connecting like-minded people to create a sense of belonging. Encourage them to get involved. And finally, empowering them to take the lead and make a difference. Because change doesn't happen alone. It happens when people come together, share, and take action. So light your spark, start your campfire, and then see how far it can reach. It will be like this image here, lots of people and energy surrounded. And that's the end of our sharing. Thank you so much for your time. But before I end the section, I would like to show you our amazing member at Coseeing. We have engineers, designers, and many others working across the tech industry. All of them are like-minded people, passionate about making the digital world more accessible. And please follow us to learn more about our ongoing journey And feel free to reach out if you would like to hear more about our story or the project we've been working on. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Joe and Sam. That was a very inspiring talk. Particularly surprised and delighted to see Access 8 Math. That was from the demo. I will certainly take that for a spin, as I know myself that working with MathML has always been a pain point for a lot of developers when it comes to, so how do we actually expose this to a screen reader user in particular? So yeah, I'll probably be geeking out with the tool, and
get in touch if you want to know more. We have very detailed documentation.
I'll brush up on my old maths knowledge as well, which is not very big. No, great stuff. Joe, did we get any questions?
Yeah, we've got a few questions in from YouTube. People already liking the video, people enjoying the talk. So the first question is from Andrea Fan, who asks, can you share why you think accessibility is often overlooked in Taiwan and what could help to change that? Thank you.
So I can, or Sen, you want to take it, or I can take it first?
Sure.
Okay, I can do that. So yeah, like at least what I feel like people know accessibility is important, but it often feels distant and hard to relate to their everyday life. So when we try to share or the advocates it online, it often doesn't lead to any actions. So that's why, like if you remember in the A11y camp, and also we share a lot of tutorial online, we want to make people feel like this closer to our life. So there's something they can use for their life. So yeah, there will be like my takeaways regarding accessibilities in Taiwan. So maybe Sen, you have some other thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely a mixed reason why it's often overlooked. And the messaging app is also a really good example because it was really the main, like 99% of the people in Taiwan use that, but it's still overlooked in accessibility somehow. I think pushing legislation for a baseline is still something we're trying hard to do to help change that. But if we want to go beyond that baseline, I still think the why behind accessibility is important. That's what we are trying hard to share the voices, and hope that the voices could be heard and involved more in their engineering or the development process.
Brilliant. Thank you both. We've got another question from Andrea who asks, in our product or environment, are there any designs or processes that unintentionally create barriers? How can we adjust them to ensure both practicality and accessibility?
That's a good question. Yeah, like in my day-to-day, to be honest, my work experience is more business driven. So I would say, yeah, because of Coseeing, now when I design, I'll think about, screen readers user probably cannot use my design because it doesn't work that way. So I would say definitely build the empathy and think from more perspective. And in terms of the work process, I would say if, at least in my company, we have a design system team. They take care of accessibility related stuff. So they're also like expert in this area. So whenever I have doubts, I just reach out. And it somehow works and works well. And I don't need to like overwhelm myself with all the WCAG and all the guideline, also all the legal requirements. So that's what I usually do in my day-to-day. Yeah, and there's also the suggestion for most of the designers, yeah, if you are in this field, and also maybe like me, it's more like business driven, just focus on conversion. Accessibility usually is kind of afterthought. Just reach out to experts and also be surrounded by the talent like what I have at Coseeing. Yeah, that would be my suggestions.
I totally agree with Joe as a designer myself, and from the Coseeing aspect, because we are not working in a company, it's more like a third party. I do observe a practical way for us to spread the idea to make these tips as concrete as possible, like how to improve a web form or like tab index. Because IT professionals in Taiwan also leverage a lot of this online resources, like they enter the keyword to enhance their skills. So in this way, they could have higher chance to see these articles we wrote and understand, oh, there's another accessibility aspect, and try to put that into their project.
Brilliant. Thank you both. I've got a question here. I was wondering if you had any tips or guidance for how to cater for people in your community with different sort of levels of knowledge. So maybe people who are more familiar and experienced with accessibility, but also people who are new to the group.
Are you asking the like tips or suggestion to tackle different level people?
Yeah,
like
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
So I think pretty much like the framework we introduced, right? The first, for example, like me, I was totally know nothing about accessibility. I know it's important, but I didn't even know WCAG. So definitely need to let them know why this is important, so they don't feel like forced to read those WCAG. And then secondly, you need to know like this is something useful for some people, and you need to let them witness it. So I remember when I interviewed one of the talent, like who's working in accessibility, she told me one time she took the developer to the usability section with people who cannot see. It's really impactful because people know what they design and what they care is really used by someone in need. So this kind of ways that building empathy is something I would say definitely number one tips. And then starting from there, you can build in more like knowledge, or if you want to explore more in screen reader or like become advocates. Yeah, it depends on their interest. But I would say definitely building empathy is the first way to go. Yeah, something like me, I know it's important. So that's why I'm here, and we are here to share the importance of accessibilities and how we bring this up in Taiwan. Yeah. So yeah, that would be the tips from my side.
For me, I think because first our project or our organization started with a really accessibility expert person, so I often ask a lot of questions to him, and I don't have like a high confidence on my own like accessibility knowledge or skill. But still, when like newcomers come in, or like online there's comments that I know the answer, I know some aspects, and I will try to share from my side that even though I'm not like as an expert as like other people, but still I think this open-minded and sharing atmosphere in this organization is very important. That you don't need to be like a very expert to teach people. It's still like give and take community.
Yeah, learning by sharing, learning by doing, right? Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you both.
No, excellent. Yeah, once again, great talk and great, Q&A as well. Thank you for your answers. So yeah, wonderful. Now, for the audience at home, if you did like this session, and why wouldn't you, just hit that like button, and don't forget you can subscribe to our channel to be kept in the loop on our future events. Now, Inclusive Design 24 is brought to you with thanks to our Platinum supporters, Accessibility Cloud and Intopia, our Silver supporter, Intuit, and our Bronze supporters, the Law Office of Laney Feingold, Mantis & Co, and Vispero. Now, Inclusive Design 24 will be back on the hour with our next session, so don't go anywhere.